Welcome to the thisAbility Adventures podcast. I'm Andrea Anderson.
And I'm Chip Dodd from Team thisAbility.
So we have Tomas Diaz and Anna Edwards with us. They recently did the Chattanooga Epic. It was a 30-hour race, and we wanted to hear more about it. Tomas often does some commentary for us on our page, and we've raced with Tomas before. Anna is new to Team thisAbility, and they formed Team thisAbility PR. So, Tomas, why don't you tell me what PR is for? Because usually I think it's personal record. Like I look on Strava for my PRs. So, but I have a feeling it might not be that. How'd you come up with that?
Actually, I think it was more Chip that suggested that as in PR like Puerto Rico. So it was PRs in Puerto Rico, and Chip was the one who suggested that, and then it also dubs as PR as personal record. So it's kind of both, I guess.
Awesome.
Yep.
I love it because I really love that you chose to continue using our name because to us it represents how we approach supporting people with intellectual disabilities. So we look at, focusing on what they can do and not what they can't do. And so it helps spread awareness. And so I like to mention that from time to time. So I appreciate you using our team name. And
Nice.
So tell us how the team came together. How did you and Anna come to race together?
Basically, I signed up as a soloist for C2C, and so did Anna. And we kind of stumbled upon each other. I started first C2C, and the first day I was all completely on my own, and there was like nobody. Most of the time I spent alone in most of the time, but then I stumbled upon Ron's team, and then at some point I forgot which TA it was. Then Anna kind of joined, and we sort of joined Ron at some point midway through the race, and then we continued. So that's when we started as soloists without knowing each other, and then we kind of ended up as part of Ron's team at C2C. And I think we raced the last 30 something hours together of C2C, something like that, Anna.
Yeah, I think from the ranch on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great way to meet future teammates is,
Yeah.
When you join up and see who's racing alongside you in a race. And C2C has so many soloists. I know that must have been a great experience for all of you.
One thing I want to jump in, it's great. Like you guys, in the broad scheme of things, are fairly new to the expedition races. And even experienced racers are pretty terrified to do an expedition solo. But the fact that both of you, being fairly new, signed up for an expedition solo is props on having the confidence just to jump in the pool, like both feet, just I'm going deep, I don't care. But also I was stoked with the thisAbility PR, like Tomas, like you're way up north, like we're so far away, there's no way we can train together or race our normal backyard races together. And the same thing with Lewis Bekdash. He's like down in Florida, like he's 10 hours, 12 hours away, and he's racing under thisAbility's name because we're all teammates. We want to be around each other, but we're so different, in what do you call it?
We're spread out.
We're spread out all across the United States. So I love the idea of having different teams being developed so that like just the brand, the teaching people how to race that are fairly new, just really having a good time and embracing adventure racing as a lifestyle, as a culture, as a tribe, as a group. So I'm really excited that you launched that and you're starting to race under the name and building your own team and doing more races. Super cool.
And
Nice.
So I need to know, Anna, what's your experience with racing? I know a little bit about Tomas's, but you're fairly new to it. So let's hear, where are you coming from? What's your background?
I'm very new to expedition racing, but not so new to racing, the endurance world. Like everybody else, I feel like my gateway drug was Spartan racing. And then after I ran through that, rucking. And then from rucking, I came to adventure racing and then expedition racing. Yeah.
Awesome. And so you met up with Tomas and C2C, and you guys decided on the Chattanooga Epic. What was the draw for that race, Anna, why don't you go first?
For me, it was because my calendar was open and I wanted to.
Yeah, makes total sense. Tomas, was there a specific draw to the Chattanooga Epic?
Yes, for me, I did the 48 hour last year as a soloist. And when I was at C2C, it started there. I wasn't planning on doing this, but then Jim, the course designer, at C2C, he was like, "Hey, you should join this one." I was like, "Huh, okay." Then I think there was Johnny Han approached me and, "Hey, let's race it as together." And then I was thinking, first I was thinking about doing it solo. Then I was thinking about joining with Johnny. And then after C2C, Anna approached me and was like, "Let's do this." I'm like, "Well, I was already thinking about it, so let's go ahead and join. Let's do it. Let's do it as a two-person co-ed and make it happen then." And I think we make the decision, in like 1 or 2 days or less, something like that, Anna.
Yeah.
I think it took longer for us to both work up the courage for you to present it to your bride than it took for us to decide that we wanted to do it or not.
Just look at Tomas's face like, this is not the first time we've had this problem.
Yes.
And don't be good. She's great. I mean, she puts up with Tomas. She puts up with his racing, and she lets us share in Tomas. But she, I think, is smarter than us in that she wants no part of this, right? So she wants to travel with Tomas, but not doing the adventure racing things. Because I was trying to sell it as, hey, bring her along, make it a couples weekend, but we'll race in the meantime. But no, none of that. So yeah, it took us longer to present it to her than it did for us to decide that we wanted to do it.
I like how you included us in the presentation to her.
Yeah.
I needed to break the bad habit of like telling her a few days before. So
like, surprise, honey.
Pretty much. And not only that, immediately after C2C, the C2C was a 25-year anniversary of C2C. And like 1 or 2 days after that was a 25-year anniversary of myself and my wife. So
nice.
That's great. And later in the podcast, we're going to talk about the travels we've all done recently. But I do think you might have made up for going to the C2C with the trip you took. So we'll get to that later.
Yes.
Anyway, so Chattanooga Epic. What were your goals for the race? Who wants to start? Tomas, what were your goals?
Well, since I'm looking at everything in there, my goal was, of course, to maximize as many checkpoints as possible. But my other goal was, since we joined the two-person co-ed division, was to win that division. That was like, so basically 2 goals. First, to get as many checkpoints as possible, and of course we were not going to sleep, and of course we wanted to get the first place in the two-person co-ed. That was pretty much the goals.
Right.
Awesome. So you concur, Anna? Those are your goals also?
Right. We had a discussion and we both agreed that we wanted to push hard without blowing up. Don't break anything or any body parts. Don't break the bike, don't break your body.
Yeah. Did you have any idea before the race started, like whether it was clearable or what was going to be challenging or not? And did you have a plan of how to manage your strengths?
I don't think we wanted to necessarily clear because we felt there were going to be full points and we were okay letting those go, especially at the sake of conserving energy, which we didn't know was going to be a big deal later on. But clearing it wasn't necessarily the goal, but podiuming and getting first was a goal that we strived for.
Awesome.
So did you know where the other co-eds were, like while you're racing, or were you just like, just push as hard as you can, clear as much as you can, and hope you end up on the podium?
No, I didn't know. Like you said earlier, I'm so new that I don't necessarily put names and faces together. And it was hard to tell who was solo, who was 3-person, who was 2-person. All I could see was the names on the roster on the sign up.
And And in my case, I was so focused on the maps that I wasn't even looking at people's faces. I was just focused on the maps. That's it. So I saw more maps than faces. Let me put it that way.
It's actually admirable because a lot of times teams get wrapped up. They'll see a team go by and we need to chase that team, and you have no idea how many they've skipped, what their strategy is. Maybe they don't even know where they're going. So the fact that you guys were like, screw it, we're just going to run our own race and we're going to let the cards fall where they fall. And that's actually an advanced skill set in adventure racing is to ignore the other teams and just do the best you can.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna say something here. We were really not chasing anybody, but then at some point, I think we met with Johnny, and we met him before, and along the trail we met him, and all of a sudden, Johnny and I started chatting with each other. We both lost focus. We both distracted each other, and we both missed the point.
Yeah.
So we screw each other up just by chatting with each other when we encounter ourselves with him, So that happened.
That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And I take some responsibility for that too, because at the time I was in the back. Johnny had some company with him, a team from Wisconsin, I believe, a total of 3 of them, and I was in the back talking to Liz, and I should have been more vocal about what I should be looking for, but I said it a couple, like once or twice. They were in the front, they didn't hear me. They were having their man moment, and Liz and I were back there bonding. So it's like we were just all happy, keeping each other company, walking along, and the next thing you know, we're in the trail. Like, what happened?
yeah, sometimes I feel like my role is sometimes not very defined, and sometimes I'm kind of the race mom. And part of the role of the race mom is to shut people up when they shouldn't be talking, like, come on, Chip, you got to focus. Like, it's not time to talk. And, well, Chip likes to talk almost as much as Tomas likes to talk.
Yep. And especially when we pass another team, I definitely want to talk to their team. And it's like, no, wait. Like, you got to rewind the clock and say, okay, we've got 2K of walking. So in, let's call it 12 minutes, we need to shut the hell up and start watching. Like that, the better navigator starts figuring out, like, set some guardrails and some backstops, and then now let's chat. But when we cross the river, shut up. I got to focus, right? So that we all need to work on that a little bit.
I think it's surprising to some, probably, that there is so little talking about things that are not directly related to the race and what you're doing in adventure racing. There's a lot of talk about the race and are we turning this way or that way, or what are we looking for, Anyway, so Tomas, you were talking about being on the maps. Did you guys have any set roles ahead of time? Who was going to be navving what and anything like that, Anna?
Yes, we certainly did. I wanted nothing to do with the maps. Tomas was comfortable with them, and I was like, fine, they are all yours. I started out as the punch monkey, but when we got to the second checkpoint, it was just easy. It was so, it was too much of too dangerous for him to hand me the passport in the canoe. And for me to get it, it was just easier for us to come up and he just stay in his seat and take it out of his pocket and punch it. So he ended up with the passport that way.
Yeah. Well, when there's just 2 teammates, there's fewer people to pass the roles around to. So you guys are probably both doing a lot of things together and doing it all.
Yeah, but one thing I did mention to her before the race was, yes, I'm gonna do the nav, but I still want it to be a team effort. And by that I meant, yes, I'm gonna be looking at the maps, but every now and then I'm gonna show you the map. Hey, listen, I'm gonna do this and do that. We're gonna look for this, we're gonna look for that, pay attention to this. And I'm always trying, while I'm navigating, I'm always trying to tell her, we're looking now for this, we're looking now for that. And more specifically, I remember that checkpoint that it was in the north side of the trail section, where I was like, okay, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. And now I did my pace counting. I'm like, we're supposed to see a big boulder. Where is it? I can't find it. And then all of a sudden he's like, look to your right. Oh, there it is. There you go. That's when the second sets of eyes are very useful when doing these races. So yes, I was the navigator, but that doesn't mean that she was out of navigation. That's what I meant. So
Yeah.
I'm still narrating what I'm looking for, so that I'm stuck in the maps, and then she's looking at what I'm describing that we need to be looking for.
Yeah.
Of course, in trekking section is easier than in the bike, but you know what I mean with that.
But even the bike section, we've done that before where you put the non-navigator up front and the navigator is riding the tail of that person. And then you're telling them, hey, let me know when a trail comes up. Because I'm looking at the map. You're watching out for logs and bumps and warning me about stuff. And so I love the team aspect of navigation. And I hear about it. We've never been on a team that does it, but where the navigator is like, don't worry about it. I've got it. And everybody else is just following along like little ducks. Like, I don't like that. I like the discussion of like, let's nav together. And that way everybody feels like they're involved in it, helping out and I don't know. So I appreciate what you're saying. That's the way I like to navigate. And
Well, I think there's a fine line between it being helpful when more people are involved and not so helpful. Like it takes time, I guess what I'm saying is sometimes you can't have too many people involved in decision making. I'll say that. You can have everybody involved in looking for things and that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's great. It sounds like you guys work together really well. So the race itself was about 115 miles. I'm looking at the schematic and it started with a short prologue. There was a paddle, then a bike, a truck, and a bike. So basically right off you were in the paddle. Had you guys paddled together before and how did that go? And one question I had, the start point, I think it said it was at the Suck Creek launch or something. And I was wondering, is that really the name of the creek or is that what Jim Farmer named that start location? Did it suck or not?
I'm not sure about that because originally it was supposed to be in a different river, but then last minute he had to change it to the Tennessee River, which was the same as last year. So I don't know if he named that like that on purpose last minute or not. I don't know. It's possible.
They got a lot of rain in the area, so the last couple of days, Jim had to spend redesigning the paddle section of the course and getting permits and all that other good stuff. So he was very busy, busier than usual.
Yep. And that's common. I mean, you got the race director comes up with their ideal course if everything goes right, but you always want a plan B, plan C, plan D because things happen and permits get pulled and rivers get shut down for whatever reason. So I remember like on the way back from C2C, I stopped by Jim's house and hung out with them and he showed me the course. I was giving him feedback and all that. And he mentioned it. He was like, yeah, I mean, we really want this river. It's gonna be great, but if it gets shut down, we've got a backup plan. And so it stunk that you guys ended up on that one. I think he was really looking forward to you guys doing the other river. But again, it's out of his control.
So were we. Yeah, we were looking forward to the other one. Yes.
And I just realized I skipped over the lead up to the race, which I know for at least Anna was pretty eventful. So how did you get to the race and where even are you from? Neither of you both had to fly in, correct? Yeah.
No, we drove. We both drove, but we both were overseas before the race. So we still have to fly back from where we were to our respective homes and then drive.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we still need to talk about the travel part at the end of our podcast. But tell me about getting to the race, Anna.
So my flight was canceled and Google Maps lied to me. When I finally got home, I had 3 hours to shower, pack mandatory gear, and get back on the road. Where Google Maps lied to me is it said that Chattanooga was a 7-hour drive. It was a 10-hour drive. And I put the car in park at the Airbnb at 3:10 a.m.
Wow.
No sleep. Yeah.
And when did you need to turn in your gear for the race?
Check-in was not, that was a whole nother thing. So about 6 a.m. I decided I can't sleep because I threw all my gear in the car in the TA bin. We were allowed one bin, but it wasn't arranged. So stuff that belonged in my pack was in the bin or in my trunk. So I was just stressed about that. So I finally got up about 6 and I started getting things together. And our loose plan was Tomas would go check in at 9:30, get the maps, and with the noon start. So I would continue to get ready, do my food errands, maybe take a nap at the start point until noon. Well, they wouldn't give him the maps unless both of us were there.
Oh.
So, and rightfully so, I get it, but so that blew our plan up. So I lost about 3 hours of get ready time and errand running time and gathering food time.
Yeah.
So I got the call from Tomas. I was in McDonald's getting us oatmeal because that's my race morning food. And then he called and said, you need to come here because they won't give me the maps. So I went there and we got our permits for our cars because our cars are going to be parked overnight downtown. So we need to put those in our windshield. So while he poured over the maps, I put our bikes away and put our bin away, and paddle bags had to go with us on the bus. So it was it was a whole big ordeal. So there was no sleep for me.
And what time did the race start?
Noon.
It started
noon on Friday.
Okay,
noon
so
Friday.
you're saying you didn't get to Chattanooga until Friday at 3 a.m.
Correct.
And the race started the same day at noon.
Correct.
So you're going into a 30-hour race and you have no sleep.
Correct.
So you're there's like that by 24 hours in, you probably are going to start having problems.
Yeah, I was having my own endurance race.
Wow.
So how did
she was a zombie? She was a zombie at some points.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering though, how did you manage that? And are you used to that kind of a little bit of chaos in your life? Like, were you able to manage that just fine, or was it really stressful?
I'm starting to notice a theme because C2C was the same. Like I showed up with all my gear in the car, but it wasn't, no matter how organized I try to be, it still blows up in my face. So thankfully I had everything. It's just not in an organized fashion.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel tired at the time, but I was because I was out of the country doing the Camino in Spain, and then 2 of my friends went with me because it was my birthday trip. So we partied up in Portugal before we came back. So I was like telling Tomas, look, I'm going to either be really rested or really trashed. And then that whole thing happened with the flight getting canceled and no sleep. So I would say I showed up at the start line. I was probably 70, maybe 75%. If I were an iPhone, I'd definitely be on yellow. I wasn't quite red yet, but I definitely wasn't charged on green. I was yellow.
And you got the jet lag. Like you're 6 hours
difference. The time difference.
Madrid and here. So like you take off there and it like you get here and you still need to go to bed and I don't know how you did it. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We both had jet lag because of the international trip, but hers was like more tight than mine because I arrived 1 day earlier. In Michigan.
And so
Tomas was in Iceland and I was in Spain and Portugal.
And so you both had a tight time getting there. Tomas, when did you get to Michigan from Iceland, and when did you need to leave to get to Chattanooga?
For me, it was a little easier than Anna. I arrived from Iceland Tuesday night, and I did work on Wednesday, and then I got ready and everything ready Wednesday afternoon. So Anna was supposed to arrive Wednesday afternoon in New York from Spain. Actually, she did. And as I am getting my stuff ready to go ahead and move and start my drive, and I was just going to sleep along the way, then I start getting the messages from Anna saying, my flight from New York to North Carolina got canceled. I'm like, oh, crap. So at that point, I'm like, well, I'm either racing as a 2-person core or I'm racing solo. That's it. I mean,
you weren't getting rid of me that easy.
No. I mean, I'm still going. So basically, I ended up leaving Thursday morning to Chattanooga, and I was there during the afternoon Thursday. So I had plenty of time. I slept very well. I went to sleep in my car. I slept very well. And then basically I met with Anna at 6 a.m. and I finalized everything. So, I did sleep well. I did sleep very good the days before. even with the deadline. Yeah.
And a lot of times we say, the hardest part is getting to the start line.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that might have been the case.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the race.
But there's one more thing. The funny thing
Okay.
is that people there who knew that both of us were out of the country, they were placing bets on whether we were going to make it or not to Chattanooga. So, what? These guys are not even here. So
Yeah.
they were even placing bets.
That's funny. All right, so getting back to the race, once you saw the maps, did you have a course strategy in mind? How did you decide to attack the course?
Well, the first thing I always do, even if I know that I'm not clearing, I'm still tracing a route to clear, even though I know I'm not. But when I trace my route to clear, I still allow some choices because I trace the whole route and then I say, okay, if I don't get here by this time, then I'm cutting this. If I don't get here by that time, I'm cutting that. So that's how I usually do it. And then depending on what happens along the way, I might have to adjust multiple things or make sections longer or other sections shorter, depending on how we go along the way. So I set a plan first, but then it's always subject to change depending on what happens with the rest of the team. In essence, she and I, and like how do we need to adjust according to what is going on as the race progresses. So that's how I always do it.
And so
there was a point that we thought we had to swim, and I was like, well, we've got our PFDs, I guess we're swimming.
wow.
And
And
it's still pretty cold in Chattanooga right now, right? Like in April, I guess this race was what, April 5th and 6th. So it was still, the river had to be pretty cold.
It was cold, but what happened was when I saw the maps, I saw that there was a river crossing, the Tennessee River crossing, which is like a 300-meter wide river with a crossing. I'm like, there's no bridge here. What are we supposed to do? And then like that was when I was drawing the maps. And then some other person in another car says, no, read the instructions. Oh, basically, yes, there was a river crossing the Tennessee River, but basically Jim had this boat that will go ahead and pull us in a raft and then bring us across the river. So no, we didn't have to swim across a 300-meter wide river.
Good. Navigable river by big boats. Like meanwhile, you're out there
Yes.
with your pack floundering. Yeah, that'd be a bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then did you have a schematic or what do we usually call it when we have a chart?
Spreadsheet.
The
one that Tomas created.
That's right.
We're using Tomas spreadsheet.
Did you create a spreadsheet for this race?
I did, yes.
But
I did, but I put it loosely because I usually like to take this spreadsheet and plan accordingly with the teammates. But I mean, what planning am I going to do with her when she's like still stuck in the airport and still stuck in all the other mess that she was in? So but like that even with the spreadsheet, once you start, the spreadsheet just goes all goes to the back burner because things change anyway. The spreadsheet just gives me an idea of what to expect. That's it. So I did it. Yeah.
With a 30-hour race, I would think there's less logistics to plan for, and you guys had bins that you had access to several times, and like a lot of warrior races, maybe all of them, you each got a bin, so there's usually plenty of space. Oh, just one bin per team. Yeah. Okay, that's a little different.
We had one bin, and we had plenty of space. We had decided before the race that because we had learned at C2C, we can race in the same clothes for every discipline. So we had planned for no clothing changes, no shoe changes, just go.
Yep. Good. Yeah, you basically need food and batteries, and you only have the one night, right? So even batteries, correct. If you're using Phoenix lights, you're getting through the first night, no problem on your first set of batteries.
So we had planned to just zoom through TA, which we could have done a bit. We did, especially compared to other teams, I think, but we still spent a lot of time, and we could have whittled it down just a little bit.
It's amazing how your perspective changes. Like you guys have done the C2C, so that's so much longer than the Chattanooga Epic that you probably just thought, oh, this is just a short race, where others who are like stepping up to that level think it's a really long time. So it's amazing how far just a little bit of experience goes. So I think that's really smart not to change your clothes, because regardless, you get
Yeah.
wet again, whatever. 30 hours you can suffer through some stinky wet clothes.
Not even foot care. Like I'm like
Yeah.
whatever,
No.
we can take care of that after the race.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little crazy, but
Yes.
I mean, it depends. I mean, I mean, like you said, I mean, anything that's like 30 hours or less is pretty much just burn through it. Like the blisters can't get that bad. I mean, I'm sorry,
Right.
if you know what you're doing and you're not like, come off the couch, go buy shoes and do the race. Like if you train in your shoes and all of that, you're not likely to get a lot of bad things happen in that first period of time, especially if you already lubed up leading into the race. Chafing's probably not a problem. Your feet probably aren't a problem, unless there's what do you call it? When your feet gets totally macerated or whatever. That we did a 24-hour race up in New York, and it was like the whole time our feet were wet, and we needed to do foot care because it was our feet were getting real.
Ours were wet pretty much a long time here too, but it wasn't that. Well, actually, I wouldn't say the whole time, but a big portion of the time they were wet, but it wasn't that bad.
I was gear testing sealskin socks. I'd worn them on the Camino, and they didn't blister, so I decided to take the chance with them during this race, and they were awesome. I loved them. Passed my gear test.
So tell me about them. You said sealskin. Are they like supposed to be waterproof?
And they were. So I had my Ingenji socks and the sealskins over that, and the sealskins came up to my knees. And I never felt the cold water when we walked through it with our bikes. I mean, I felt the pressure from the water because the water was moving, but I didn't feel the temperature of the water.
Wow.
So the problem I've had with those is that once the water got in, it can't get out. But I guess if they're up to your knees and the water never got in, that's interesting. And they fit in your shoes just fine, like a couple of layers. Yeah.
Yeah, so I usually have if it's cold, my Ingenji socks and my Darn Tough socks over that, and then I normally get my shoes a full size up at the least to account for swelling. But this was such a short race, there was no swelling involved.
Yeah. And you had just come off the Camino. What's it called?
The Camino de Santiago.
Okay. Yeah. And how long, well, we need to get to that later. I want to hear about that too.
Okay.
But I'm interested to hear, your socks and shoe choices. Were they the same for that you used for the race?
They were.
And how many days were you on that trail?
5.
Okay. Interesting.
It's good training for a 30-hour adventure race.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So you've got your maps, you have your route as if you're going to clear, and you've got a spreadsheet that's loose that, you disregarded. So then at what point did you start making decisions to either cut points or to move yourself along?
The first bike.
Yeah, definitely the first bike.
And
this I didn't learn until later how much of an avid mountain biker Jim Farmer is. But I felt it doing that course. It was a mountain biker's dream. I am not a confident biker, not yet at least. And it was a beautiful mountain bike. It was just very, very, to me, parts of it were not, they were sketchy for me to do. So I rode brakes a lot.
I love how you said you're not a great mountain biker yet. Like that's perfect. That's like growth mindset. You've already got that in your head. Like you're going to get there someday. And really it is just practice and time and 10,000 hours. And one day we'll probably be talking to you and you'll be saying it's your favorite thing. You just seem like that personality type. But yeah, I can imagine that area probably had some pretty serious trails. I did see by your track that you probably cut most of your points in the biking sections, and then you kind of maximized your trekking sections. And that big trek, I'm not going to say it was mean, but
I loved it. I loved it.
And Tomas loved it. Yeah,
I loved the entire trek. I loved the entire trek. Love it. All of it.
Yeah. We had both decided, we talked and we both agreed that trekking is both of our strong points. So that's where we wanted to spend our time.
Makes total sense.
Yep.
And so like I said, the route was not obvious. There were probably 1,000 different ways to do that section of the course. So how did you manage that? How did you decide what to go for? And tell me about it.
Well, this will I'll start, I'll let you finish, because this is where I started to fade, because mountain biking at this time is not my strong point, and there was a lot of like up, like no matter where you went, it was always up. And so the elevation was starting to wear on me, and by that time it was also dark. And so I was totally race legal, but in all the commotion of getting ready, I didn't put the light in my Phoenix bike light. So I had this little piddly white light on the front and not my bike light. And so I was running completely off of my headlamp, because with my lighting system, the torch, my headlamp, and the bike light, I can land planes with those things. I mean, you guys know about the Phoenix lighting system.
Yep.
Like I can divert planes onto them. But I didn't have my handlebar light, which led to me being even less confident.
Yeah.
And so we were losing time. And the second time I was on the downside of a pedal stroke, and it hit the top of a rock and spun me around twice. And I was like, F this.
Exactly.
And I was coming down a hill, and it was a hard right turn that I almost missed because I didn't have that forward light. So I had a talk with Tomas. I was like, look, and that's how we came about agreeing that the trekking was where we should really try to gather a lot of the checkpoints. Because I was, by that time, if he wanted to continue with the mountain bike, I would have sucked it up and done it, but I was so over it. I was absolutely, just like that headwind during the paddle. It was a beautiful paddle, absolutely, but I was over it after an hour in that headwind. Where my chair broke, by the way. I had no chair back by the second checkpoint.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're in the normal warrior big red canoes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When Anna, her words on the bike section, when she was like that in that section that she's describing, her words to me were like, I don't want my face to smash on any one of these rocks. And it's like, okay, fine. We'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and try to get as many points as possible in the trekking then, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the second spin.
It seemed like there were plenty of points to get to. And I was thinking maybe I should share the tracker for that trek, and you can walk me through it a little bit. Let me pull that up and wait for it.
Well, while you do that, so we were already low on food because I was not able to make my grocery run prior to the race. And while we're in the canoe, Tomas announces he forgot to pack his food.
Oh, no.
But he later found it. He forgot he put it in his PFD. So later on, he found, but it was like a packet of beef, like jalapeno beef jerky. So I can't even share in the loot because I don't like spicy stuff like that. So we're like and I made a total rookie mistake. I put my pack in a contractor bag. And so my hydration bladder was in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't hydrate like I should have been doing on the paddle, which my paddle technique is horrible anyway. So all these compounding things.
Yeah, that's such a classic mistake to make, not eating or drinking enough on the paddle. It's just really hard to do that for some reason. And I understand all of the things coming together. So I'm sharing the track now. You can see you guys did the paddle and then came up and got some of the bike points. And you can tell even the track that Jim Farmer thought people would take I mean, it's just spaghetti. All of this was very Rogaine-like,
Yes.
not an obvious route. And then the trekking starts right around here, right? That's the TA.
Yes.
You guys came around and got all of these, well, several. It looks like you focused on the ones that were not as far away.
Mhm.
So tell me how
Well,
you chose which points to go for and
yeah.
how what
Well,
route to
well.
take.
Originally, I wanted to get them all in the trek, including the Fool's points. So I
Yeah, 'cause we had
started.
hours, like what, 10
Oh yeah, we
hours or
had.
something like that? We had
Yeah.
hours.
So then I first went to the first one there to the east, and then went up north to that one. That one in the north side. That one is one of my favorites. That's the one that I was saying. Okay, we did the turn, like the switchback that you see there,
Yep.
and the picture that you see there is actually better than that because it's actually kind of hidden inside two boulders, but it's kind of like a little cove thing, and like you go from one side and you don't see it on that side. You have to go all the way around the rocks and then kind of get inside
Yeah.
this crevice and then go ahead into this crevice and get. I mean, it was beautiful. I like that
It was
one.
a hallway of rocks.
Oh yeah, it was like almost not a full labyrinth, but close to it, and it was
Yeah.
very interesting. That one was my favorite checkpoint.
That looks
And then we went.
really unique.
Yes, and
It
that
was a
was the
great
night.
pace to pee. That's where I peed.
Yeah.
It was great. There was lots of cover. Lots of cover.
and that was and that was a dark, and yeah, I think we were the
Mhm.
first ones there because like and even everybody else was either the bike or somewhere else, but that one was my favorite. And then I decided to go to the other checkpoints that you see on the west side of those two green points that we didn't get. Those were more of the fool's points, but I'm like, you know what, I got time. I'm willing to go for this challenge. I started on the right way. I started kind of like going on the right way, and then at some point I was going to head west towards that. But then there was like 1,000 feet elevation, and
Yep.
it was a lot of
Yeah.
bushwalking. And then that's when I realized, you know what? Let me go back and let's try to go to the other Fool's Point. So when we went down to the trail and the other Fool's Point down there, that one that you see there that we didn't go to. Notice how I went down that creek. We went down that creek, and then we sort of got cliff out there. We shouldn't have gotten through that
Mhm.
cliff. We should have gotten like a little bit south from there, but then same situation. That one I think we could have gotten. Too bad we bailed out on that one. I think that one, if we kept going, we could have gone because that one, even though it was a full spawn, it was not that bad because of the features there. You had the nice creek there and the other creek there. So that one would have been a good one to go for, even though it was a full storm. But then I bail out, unfortunately.
So if you're only listening to this podcast and not watching on YouTube, these points that are fool's points, they're fool's points for a reason because they had to go all the way down to the water and then go cross the water and go all the way up to the other side to a high point on the other side. It's just really punishing to have to have that much elevation change. And 2 points basically in a row that are pretty punishing. I guess there was a way to go a different route and maybe save a little bit of elevation, but not much.
If you did both points, but
Yeah.
no matter what, you
yeah,
go down into the big gully and
correct.
back up to even
And
get over there.
and what you see there in green is not a trail.
Yeah.
You have to just bushwalk through the features and find out the
Mhm.
features to follow. So it's not like, oh, the trail will get me there. No. So
Yeah.
neither one of those 2 points had a trail to it. So that's when I bailed out.
Mhm.
So I
And when
just
he
kept going.
says cliffed out, like we're talking like a drop. None of this like, okay, we'll shimmy down backward. Like it is a cliff.
Yeah, I believe
Uh, yeah, but had we gone further south and then reach another way to go down instead of through that creek, we could have gotten a path. It's just like it's one of those things. Um,
Yeah,
but
but
that was yeah.
with the elevation change and the fact that you're bushwhacking, I think those are wise points, to drop if you're going to. It makes total sense to me.
Yeah, but they were hard. They were hard for me to give up. I really wanted to get them, but anyway,
Yeah.
we have to make a decision and stick with it.
It looks like you didn't have many navigation challenges after that. Um,
No.
but it was,
Well, that one point that you see there, that one point that you see there that we miss in that corner, that's when, that's when I met
We were
Johnny.
talking.
And,
We were talking.
and we were just,
Oh.
Distracted.
So that
And
was
we
right
both,
here.
but see, the thing is, we both distracted each other because he was navigating for his thing, for his thing, and I was navigating on mine, and then we both screwed up, both of us.
So
So
when
that's what
did you
happened.
decide you had gone too far?
when we reached that road at the
We
end.
hit the end of the
that
trail.
was-
Yeah, the trail ended.
Well, you could have gone back, but I suppose that's quite a distance.
we discussed that. Remember, Anna? I was like,
Mhm.
Anna, should
Yeah.
we go back? She said, hey, we should go back. But then we realized, okay, let's keep going. And then basically, I think they went elsewhere, and then like we kept going to the next one. That then we separated.
Yeah.
But yeah, we thought about it.
We
Looking
considered
back at
it.
it, looking back at it, yes, we should have, Anna. We should have gone back. But hey, it's
Hindsight 2020.
Always,
of
right?
course.
All right. Well, I wanted to just ask you specifically about that trick, but were there any other points specifically that you either really loved or really hated?
The one that you see down there further south in the trek, that on the southwest side,
This one?
that the one in the southwest side before going down the creek. That one we had to go. There was no trail either, and we had to go up some steep terrain to get to that one. And then
Okay.
that was fairly easy because you still have to go through the steep terrain, but then you get to a road that will get you there. So that wasn't that big of a deal. However, on the way back, no, not that one. That one was the lookout. I'm talking the one in southwest. That one,
This
the one
one.
southwest.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one was the navigation to that one was not that bad. It did show a trail on the map, but there was no trail. So basically, we crossed the river and then we basically went up that creek. No, sorry, up that steep hill there. It wasn't that steep, but it came steep. On the way down, unfortunately, we hit some steep areas. They're steeper than what they show there.
Yep.
And we sort of struggled out. On the way in, it was a little easier. I think I had to pull you there, Anna, didn't you? Didn't I? I remember.
Yeah.
And then on the way down, we kind of like were struggling to get back down to the river because we hit some steeper areas that didn't get us where we wanted.
Yeah.
And then after that, we went down the bigger creek to the point where we crossed. That creek was more that part. Yeah, that section was challenging.
Wow. Yeah. It looks like a lot of topo lines.
Well, the challenging thing about that section is that we actually went through a river there. There's no trail there, and it's a creek, but a river, and it's beautiful.
It was flowing. So the trick was not to step on a rock that was slimy and then be part of the river. But it was beautiful. Like if someone took a drone through that or something, if I had a GoPro and knew how to use it, I would have totally had it on. It was beautiful.
There were beautiful falls all over the place, and there was and some of them fairly high. But the beautiful part is like we had to go up and down these rocks and figure our way out. Yes, could have we gotten a path parallel to that with less rocks? Maybe, but we couldn't find it, so we had to go through the actual creek and through the river itself.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. We had to go and cross the river back and forth, and to one side to the other, and we finally were able to get out of there and go south. But to me, that creek, even though it was difficult and challenging, we spent a long time there. That was beautiful. It's one of those things where you see this creek with a lot of beautiful falls and a lot of beautiful things that normal people will not get to see because there's no trails to get there.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's what adventure racing is for,
Yes, I love that about adventure racing. So was there ever a time that you started getting worried about the time and how long it would take you to get to the finish?
Only when
No.
we had to. Well, only when we had to skip those other 2 points that you see there. That I told Anna, we were on the lookout and like, okay, Anna, we need to go back, get that point in the southwest, and then keep going because we're not gonna have time for those two. Because originally we planned to do those as well, but we realized,
We
what,
did.
we're not gonna have time. Yeah.
We did, and he asked me if I wanted to go for him, and 95% of the time, if you ask me if I want to go for a checkpoint, I'm going to say yes. And it was at this point that I realized that like race brain was setting in, because I had no business saying yes, because I was standing there starving and I had no food. And he was like, it's going to take us like 4 hours, or what was it, 4 or 6 hours or something like that, something ridiculous, where I had no business saying yes, let's go for a checkpoint. It was totally stupid on my part. And then he asked me, and this is where we had a miscommunication. I thought he asked, how are your feet? And I was like, my feet are fine. Like, why are you asking it? He asked me, how's your food?
Oh,
No food.
Yeah.
And when she said, I have nothing, then okay, then we have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was all about the
on the ball.
checkpoint. That was so stupid. That was stupid on my part. Like total race brain.
Well, it seems like the right decision was made. And these points, I mean, this whole trek, there was no easy route. You know, you needed to get north to south, but the points were kind of all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the best route would have been. There must have been some zigzagging, over this ridge.
It's
So,
more apparent with the race maps because there's some roads that are not shown there that in the race maps do show. So
okay. Interesting. All right. Well, I'm
But
going to
it
stop sharing, but
but it was fun though, because I would be walking along and people would just pop out of the woods. Like, oh, hey. Like
that's when you wonder, like, where are they going, or should you be going that way? Or, when you're
Yeah.
surprised by someone, you usually think something's wrong with either their team or your team.
Right.
And so highs and lows, do you have a particular high from the race?
Anna?
For me, the high was the scenery. I had never been to that area. That was another draw for me to do this race. Is I'd never been to Chattanooga. I've been to Nashville, but not Chattanooga. And it was a lot prettier and a lot hillier than I thought. So that was a high for me to experience it in the way that I did. A low for me was my brain saying go and my body saying, no, dog, not today or not.
Yeah. Yep. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
What about you,
My
Tomas?
Well, my low was the last hour and a half or so of the paddle, especially near the end, and when we had this really, really strong wind. Of course, strong headwinds. Of course, every team had it. It's not just us. That paddle was brutal. But then once we got out of the paddle, I think we probably had like the fastest TA because like we dropped the boat, got our stuff, we're gone. That's it. So while I was getting food and I was looking at the maps, she got the bikes ready and we're gone. And like people
Yeah,
who arrived at the paddle before us, and like
they're still
where did
there.
they go? Like where did they go? What happened? What is going on? We were gone like I think it was just 5 or 6 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Because we're not changing clothes or anything. Now, so the low was the paddle, the end of the paddle, but the high to me was pretty much the rest of the race. I was high all the time. After the paddle, I was pretty much high all the time, all of it. Yeah. So it was the paddle. The last part of the paddle was dreadful, and then the other time after that. So I would say the whole thing, the whole time I was high.
so the
That's it.
headwind is what made the paddle bad.
Yeah, because we did that because I did that paddle last year, same river, even longer. It was 35 miles instead of 25 miles. And the headwind was not as bad. It was still a dreadful paddle, but the headwind was not as bad that year. This year, the headwind was really, really strong, and that made it really hard and dreadful.
Yep.
Well, it was especially horrific for me because I was so afraid of being cold that I had like merino wool from head to toe. This like I was gear testing paddle pants that actually had fleece lining and my rain jacket on. So I was just absolutely roasting.
Yep.
It was so bad. And the pants that I gear tested they failed because they didn't have they don't have Velcro or a buckle on the bottom. So in order to take them on or off, I have to take my shoes off. So it was like, no, this will not work.
Yep.
Yeah,
So.
it's really hard to get the right temperature many times, when you're paddling, especially because you don't know what it's going to feel like. And once you start exerting yourself and,
Mhm.
yep.
It's hard. Yeah. And it's like you don't want to be warm before you get on the water because you get in there, you start paddling, you get hot,
Yep.
So it's like anything. It's like you almost have to, like when we were diving a lot, like every dive we would write down exactly what equipment that we had so that and what the water temp was so that way like okay, we're diving and it's going to be, the water temp is 53 degrees. This is the outfit that I wore and it worked or it didn't work, right? So it's like adventure race, we need that same kind of thing. It's like, okay, I paddled, it was 43 degrees. This is what I wore and I got too hot and
Mhm.
so
We tell ourselves we should do that, but we still never have.
yeah.
We should keep
Right.
a log
A
of
lot.
that
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
it's still hard to know.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Well,
I think
before
most of the time, just a rain jacket and rain pants covers you for most paddling, when you're above 50 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that. I don't know. Blanket statement though. So, and everyone's different. But what were you going to say, Anna?
I was going to say, before we leave the topic of high and low, this is not necessarily a high or low, but I did want to throw this out there. I want to normalize receiving help. I did two things in this race that I have never done or experienced before. I laid down on the side of the trail with my eyes closed while he looked over the maps, and I got help. Tomas was a great teammate in that he took his waist belt and we flipped it the other way. So when we were going up these inclines, I would hold on and he would tow me. And I want to throw that out there because I want to normalize receiving help because I feel like your great videos are geared towards beginner people getting into the sport or just starting out. That I don't want anybody thinking that in order to be a good racer, you can't receive help. Whereas, in fact, that's what makes you a good racer. You've got to
Yeah.
leave your ego at the start line because if you are dragging your team down and you say, no, I'm okay, and you just try to muscle it out, that's not going to work. So I want to touch on that and normalize receiving help because a lot of us are coming in from some other sport that we were good at and we're leveling up to adventure or expedition racing. And so we may not be good yet. So receive help for your own sake and your team's sake in order to move faster.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because it's just the way it is. I mean, I almost take it
Mhm.
for granted that you just help each other and you ask for
Mhm.
help when you need it and you give it,
Mhm.
even if someone's not asking for it. Like you try to carry each other's loads and go at a pace that's reasonable for everybody. I'm really
Mhm.
glad you brought that up.
Yep.
Both
I
of us
totally
have had
agree.
help.
We've definitely had help. Definitely.
I don't
And it
know.
goes
Basically,
yeah.
the waist strap.
Yeah.
I instead of putting the waist strap on the backpack here, I just put it the other way, and then I told her to hold on to that, and then I
Mhm.
just pull. I just pull, and it worked out
It was easy. Yeah, it was fine.
That's
because we
great.
didn't have a tow rope. So I'm like, okay, I don't have anything to tow with, so let's go ahead. That's when I figured, all right, let's just flip this out, grab onto that, and just tow her. That's it.
Yep. That
Mhm.
works
Yeah.
good.
It
But no
was so
back.
helpful on those inclines too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. That's a great tip.
Yep.
Glad you mentioned that.
Absolutely.
And so, neither one of you said for your high how you placed. You finished the race, and when did you find out how well you did?
It was a little because we had to wait for the other team to come in, right, Tomas, to know how many points they got.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
but
we
I
came in
glanced.
early. We came in hours early.
Ah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
I
We
even
had until
so,
6, I believe.
I
And was it,
I wanted
did we
to
come in
get
at
more points, but
2:45 or 3:45?
I forgot. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah. But we had hours to spare. Like that's
yeah,
when I got my sleep was between us finishing and the award ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
know.
I mean, just because I got to ride that last bike section, I think you guys skipped a lot of it. When you cross the river and then you went up to the top of that, it almost looks like a volcano. It's like a big mountain with a big lake in the middle. That mountain biking was pretty hard. I mean, it was just challenging. It's like one of those, if you're already tired and you're not comfortable on a bike, I could see why you'd want to skip that section. It was technical. There's a lot of rocks and a lot of steep stuff, a lot of hard climbs.
But my point was, you guys did really well.
Yeah.
You got first in
Yeah.
your category,
Mhm.
and that must have felt great.
Oh,
You
yeah.
made great decisions, and even though you left time on the clock, sounds like you guys did what was best for you guys, and you
Yes.
met your goals.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is true. Yes.
So even our on the fly plan, we worked very well, I felt. Especially after, and we didn't mention the first bike. Once you turned in the bike and decided to go on the track, there was no going back. So like that was a rule they had and a cutoff that they had. So at first he goes, "Are you sure?" And we're like, "No, not really." But then we stuck to our plan of working our strength, which was the trekking section. And that particular TA, they had Michelin star ramen noodles. Like those ramen noodles were so good. We walked out of there double fisted. Like, oh, and there was also that same TA, they had a room that was heated. And I looked at him, I was like, we are not going anywhere near that room.
You
And
would
we
get
did it.
tucked
We
in.
kept going. Yeah.
We didn't go in. We didn't go
We
in.
didn't go in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say about the race? Did we miss anything?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
capsize, so that was great. Yeah.
Oh, I have to say, of course, Jim Farmer, he does really, really good race design. We have to say that, of course. Credit where credit is due. He really does a good design. I mean, yeah, he's very good at that. So I already raced two of his racing this season, and I love them both. So really good. I had to say
And
that.
he was very present too. Every time I looked up, he seemed like he was there. Like,
Yep.
so he didn't sleep either. Like,
He put a lot of effort into that race because when I stopped by there at C2C and he knew I couldn't do the race, so he was asking for feedback and I was looking at the Cal Topo and I pre-ran a couple of the sections and I was like, he really put a lot of thought into that. And he really like the fact that the CPs were all numbered weird, like he wanted it so that there was no obvious course, that you really had to make some decisions, which ones are the full points, which ones aren't. And he wanted me and Andrea both to look at it and say, how would we attack this if we're trying to clear it? And but this was not a thrown together race. This was very well thought out. And so I'm really glad you guys enjoyed it. And props to Jimmy the Geek for working his magic.
I really hate that we didn't get to race this race.
Yeah.
2 times
Next
now.
year.
We haven't been able to do it. I really hope there's one next year that we can do. So I guess that we are running out of time almost, but I want to hear about your travels. And Anna, why don't you go first and tell us where you were and like, what's your approach to travel? Do you travel a lot and what were you doing?
I think others would say I travel a lot. I don't feel like I travel enough as much as I'd like. I would love to just log in from work somewhere and just be where I want to be, whether it be Zion, whether it be Singapore, whether it be Bali. Like I want all the passport stamps. Okay, not only in expedition racing, but on my actual passport.
Yeah.
I just love experiencing new cultures, new foods, other ways of thinking. Totally open to. I just love it. I love traveling. So I think the mesh with expedition racing and my zest for travel really, really feed my soul.
Yeah. And so tell us about your most recent trip.
That would be Washington State this past weekend. But prior to the race, I was in Spain and Portugal doing the Camino.
And I know you said you did it for 5 days, and I don't know the length of the whole thing.
Mhm.
How
I
long?
Well, I started in Saria, and because there is a minimum amount of, well, to them, kilometers, us miles, that you need to do to earn the Camino certificate. So I wanted to do no less than Saria to earn that certificate.
I didn't know there was a certificate. I feel like
Yeah, so it's a whole big thing when you get to the church, which is beautiful. The cathedral is beautiful. There's a whole office, and you got to show them all your passport stamps from the different towns that you were in, where you can get from the restaurants or the albergues, which is like their hotels. And some of the stamps are very intricate. It's very pretty. Some of them is just like, ink. They didn't put a lot of effort into it. But there was one that I have, and it was a guy just in a tent on a greenway that he was melting wax and doing the like wax melts, and then he put a little like shell in it because the shell is the symbol, like a scallop shell.
Wow.
And there was one point that Tomas and I almost missed because we missed the yellow, almost missed the yellow arrow and the tape that was put up to not go that way, but go up the mountain. But I picked up on that yellow arrow because the yellow arrow is what's on the Camino. So I like honed in on it, and I was like, I think we're supposed to go this way. And he looked at the map and he was like, yeah, you're right.
Nice.
Wow,
That's
funny.
when the second set of eyes comes important in these races. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just that transfer of experiences, how you just start to look for certain things after you've done other things. Like, I love that. And how long did you trek each day on the Camino?
It wasn't long at all. I started out with a group, and one by one, they decided it wasn't for them. But we'd already prepaid for the hotels because we didn't want to end the day and then start looking for someplace to sleep.
Yeah.
So it was only about 20 miles a day.
Interesting. That's quite a bit, though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was enough for me to know that the shoes and the socks lasted.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how long is it, and how many days does it usually take someone to do the whole thing?
Well, it depends on which route you take, and there are a lot of routes to choose from. We chose the route that we did because one of my friends is a school teacher, and she was on her spring break. So we were trying to work within those bounds of her being off. So the route we chose was because of that, and it worked because it gave us a little extra time on the tail end to check out Portugal too.
Neat. Would you go back?
I would go back to Spain, but I'd like to see Barcelona. I was surprised at the number of people that smoked. Did you guys experience that?
Yep.
And so every day I did the Camino, it rained. So anytime in the evening when we got to a restaurant or to our hotel, people were huddled around the front door smoking.
Yep.
And I'd have to walk through that cloud of smoke, and it was just horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, we noticed that too.
I think that's all of Europe, it seems like, because when we did the race in Croatia, it's like all the restaurants, they were smoking inside the restaurants. Like you had to eat inside. It was terrible.
It was gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like being an adventure racer makes you a better traveler, or being a traveler makes you a better adventure racer? Or is there no?
I think being an adventure racer makes me a better traveler because I pack a lot lighter now. Thank goodness when this whole shebang thing happened with me, I only had my pack and a carry-on. I did not have to lug a suitcase through JFK and the streets of New York because I had this big suitcase. I didn't have that. So I pack a lot lighter. I realize that I just need a lot less. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the case with us. Well, the recent trip we took to Spain, we took our pack raft and
the rock climbing equipment and the BF and yeah.
But it felt like we were traveling light because we didn't have our bikes.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so Tomas, you recently, before the Chattanooga Epic, went to Iceland and did a whole lot of stuff there from what I saw. What was that trip like?
Well, speaking about traveling light, I always travel, or most of the time I travel light because like I already got my family used to whenever we do international travel, even if it's 3 or 4 weeks, we each carry one backpack. That's it. And Iceland was no exception. I went there with my wife, and each one of us had one backpack. That's it. And the Iceland trip was my wife's idea. It was for our 25-year anniversary, and we've been there before. And then it was her idea. I want to go back. Oh yes, let's go back because like the last time we were there kind of like as a bonus because we were on our way to Stockholm. And the last time we were there, we realized that by stopping in Iceland a few days, we saved some money. So then that was the last time we went there. But then this time I was like, no, let's see more because that place is beautiful. That place is in a different planet. So I was with my wife there, and we traveled to different areas of the Iceland, mostly on the southern side, all the way to the east and to the west, but mostly on the southern side. And we were just coming out of winter and getting into spring, so we still saw the nice glaciers with all the glacier water, glacier lagoons, ice caves, and we hiked to different places and different beautiful things. The scenery is amazing, it's beautiful. We had a little hiccup with the car rental a car because they own a
The
car with.
tire being
The tires,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, it's horrible looking.
We were on the other side, all the way west, all the way east on the island, and then I look at the tires. And I'm like, there's no thread here, and the red that was, and we were like freaking 600 kilometers. No, wait, sorry. Yeah, something like 600 kilometers away from the rental car company. I'm like, and then I had to like get the spare, put it there, and rotate tires. But anyway, other than that, I mean, they gave me they once I got back to the rental car company, they exchanged cars, so we're good. But I get to spend a very nice quality time, just me and my wife, no kids. The kids stayed this time, and we had a very wonderful time. Now, when I go with her, and yes, we go through hiking trails and different things, but the pace, of course, is much slower because yes, she does enjoy going to these places, but she's going to enjoy the trail, which means that her pace is going to be slower. And sometimes when she cannot take it anymore, then basically I just have to hand her the keys. She goes back to the car, and that's when I run. Because then I go and that's my training time. It's like, okay, fine, you go back to the car, give me some time here. But then I run because now I'm running on the direction opposite to the car, getting as much trail as possible. But I don't want to have my wife wait too long on the car either. So now I just have to go through these trails and run like crazy and do the thing and then run back. So I get to do some of that too as part of my training, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah. And how many days were you there?
We were there a bit more than a week.
Okay. So how
Something
long
like that, yeah.
would you say someone would need to go to feel like they saw enough of Iceland?
It depends on how you do your things. I try to pack a lot of. I travel light, but I pack a lot of things in the place to get as much as possible. So 2 weeks will be great if you want to see the whole island and then do a loop around the island. We didn't see the northern part of the island. It's actually good that we didn't plan to do a loop around the island because some of the sections to do the loop were closed. So even had I planned to do a loop, well, guess what? The road that will take you there to the entire loop will have been closed anyway. So then you have to go like this and then like that because there's a section here that was closed. So it's good that I didn't plan the whole round.
That's because of snowfall?
Snowfall and different other things. And like the roads are, I mean, the main road is small. I mean, yeah, we had a vehicle that it was a 4-wheel drive and everything, but there's some sections that you're not even supposed to go. And yeah, I took the car into sections that were sketchy, but we were not supposed to.
With bald tires, yeah, okay.
Well, the flat tires, when I noticed the flat tires, we were in a sketchy section. I'm like, oh crap, I need to change this now. Wow. But it's a very beautiful place, and it's just nice. I highly recommend that place.
Did they speak much English, or did you use Google Translate?
Everyone speaks English there because Icelandic is such a local regional language.
Yeah.
That the Icelandic people, pretty much all of them, are taught English. So
I wish Spain got that memo. Spain and Portugal did not speak much English.
I don't speak English in Spain and Portugal.
I'm sure you don't. Yeah.
And in Portugal, I speak to them in Spanish. They speak back to me in Portuguese, and we can understand each other.
Yeah,
So,
they're neighbors. Yeah.
Well, and what do you think? Do you think traveling makes you a better adventure racer, or does adventure racing make you a better traveler?
I think it's a combination of both. I've been traveling, especially with my whole family and my wife and everybody else, for quite a while. I think my country list is now what 40 something. I lost count. I think I've been to 40 something countries.
Wow.
Most of my travels I do on my own, like self-guided, where I just rent a car and just go. I don't like tours. I like to do things self-guided, and I've taken my whole family with my kids and everything when they were very little. And the being lighter part is the easiest one. So it's a different scenario for me. So I guess on packing light, it gives me a better way to be an adventure races, because in my adventure races, I'm also quite light. I take like mandatory gear, nothing else. Even the bin itself, where I can put as much stuff. My bins usually are like less than half empty. so that helps a lot. So I guess the only thing I can get from the traveling to make me a better adventure races is just the planning, the packing, and just figuring things out. That's it.
Yeah, I think the
But I've been
figuring things
traveling way
out.
longer than adventure. But I've been traveling way longer than adventure racing. So
Yeah,
Right.
I think that figuring things out is key. Like we were in Spain for the last couple of weeks, and it made me appreciate that when you adventure race, you don't have to do any of the planning. The race director says, "Here's your
correct.
or here's your maps, and you go do it." But when you're traveling, there is a lot involved in finding what you want to see and being where you want to go and figuring out all the stuff you have to figure out, and it gets tiring. Um, anyway,
Yeah, but
I
when I
agree.
travel, I it's loosely planned. And by loosely planned, I mean it's subject to changes. And if I go there and I mean the plans can change. I go there to a grocery store and ask a local. The person who's in the grocery store tells me, "Oh, you need to go that way." That way, yeah, that's where we're going tomorrow. Then that's where we're going today. Oh, good. So sometimes we plan as we go, and
Right.
that's part of the adventure too.
I think too, as adventure racers, when we travel, we're more confident in looking for things that are off the beaten track.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty cool. Something that adventure racing has taught us to, as long as you have the mandatory gear, you can do just about
Yep.
anything. So what we pack when we travel is a lot like what we pack for an adventure race. And, even down to the first aid kit. Like I'm usually like, Chip, you have the first aid kit? Like, yeah. You have a space blanket? Yeah. Then if we got those things, often Chip also has his spot tracker, but if we have the basics, we can go do whatever we want, pretty much. We can
Actually,
tackle harder things.
Actually, actually, I want to add something to what you said about the kit, the emergency kit,
Mhm.
and this is something that everybody should do. Whenever somebody goes and does international travel, a safety kit, including pills, is very important because, like, no matter where you go, especially in Europe, for example, you're not necessarily going to find pharmacies easily available, and sometimes they're closed. Like even in Iceland, the pharmacies were all closed because they just happened to be in Easter or whatever. So it's good to even bring your own pills. Bring your Imodium, bring your Tylenol, bring your Benadryl, bring your whatever you need. You bring them with you just in case.
Cool.
That's part of your kit. Yes, that's part of your
Yeah.
kit. You need to bring that when you're doing international travel. You cannot rely on local pharmacies wherever you are in the world. So it's
Yeah,
I
we
wanted
were
to add to that.
looking. I had brought from adventure racing. I have these like little tiny like packets of sunscreen, and I got like an industrial thing from Amazon, and it's super cheap. And I brought a bunch of those, and then we get there, we start getting low, and we're like, man, we probably should look at sunscreen, which is only available in a pharmacy, and they wanted like $30 for this like
Wow.
toothpaste size thing of sunscreen. I was like, hell no! Like sunscreen should be like $1. It's like lotion with some extra. No. So we got by on my little chemical packets, or my little sunscreen packets. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like we were looking for it was NyQuil or something, and that was like hard. You just don't get that at the grocery store. You had to go to a pharmacy, a big pain in the ass. So you're totally right. Take all your your
Basic
med kit
meds.
needs to be pretty
Yes.
robust.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk with us. We've probably ran over time.
Sorry.
Call this
What
long form podcast.
long form.
Yes.
And just to get a little bit back on track, what are your next adventure racing plans? Do you have any races coming up or?
I have one this weekend. I don't really count it. It's only an 8 hour. But since I'm doing it by myself, which makes me totally uneasy, I'm anxious about it. And then after that, I am rock climbing at Linville Gorge, which is referred to as the Grand Canyon of the East. So practice my rappelling too, for some upcoming races that I hope I get to do, like Alaska, practicing my knots, thanks to Chip.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And while I was in Washington State, I tried on some dry suits. So that
Yeah.
was fun. Thanks for that podcast also. But yeah, so this weekend, the bigger ones is Rev 50, Rev 3, the 50 hour
We'll see you
in West
there.
Virginia.
I will see you
Yeah.
there.
Okay. That one, maybe even Malaysia, and then maybe Alaska.
Wow, that's a lot of exciting plans.
Yeah.
We've been to the Linville Gorge. It
Yep.
was beautiful. We climbed there. There's a multi-pitch climb there that's really accessible. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
It's been a
It's I don't I would say I have a fear of height. Like I love flying, but like you will never hear about me bungee jumping. Like so I parasailed, I'm sorry, paraglided while I was in Washington State on Sunday. So this is the next step in getting what I call like numb to the whole thing. Like
exposure helps, right?
exactly.
So what's in store for you, Tomas? What's coming up?
For me right now, the only thing that it's in the picture right now is the one that Anna mentioned about Malaysia. But that's like in November. But from now until then, right now I have nothing signed up, but that's probably going to change soon.
I can help with that.
Yeah, there you go. I heard there's a 50 hour coming up.
I may. Now that you mentioned that, I may sign up for that one. But right now, see, the last 2 weeks I've been so busy with some work stuff that I had to take care of that I've been concentrating on that. But now that things are settling better in the work things that I'm doing, and getting stuff, then I can go ahead and think and get some races in the way. But see, sometimes these races they just happen. So, like for example, Chattanooga just happened. Like we signed
It
up
sure did.
what is it like? We signed up like 2 or 3 weeks before the race or something like that. So
Yeah.
sometimes, so right now between here and Malaysia in November, I have nothing. But I may add something there. I don't know. We'll see.
It just happened. That's awesome.
Yeah. That whole add to cart thing, it just happens. Like,
Wow. Yeah. And then after it's added, then you ask permission for your wife, right? That's how that works. Yeah.
Yes.
I would not recommend that. Anyway, well, we have Chip now has the Rev 3 50-hour race coming up that I'm not going to be able to be at after all. I was hoping to, but I'm not going to be able to. So I guess my next race is Alaska.
Yep.
So with each other, the Buff Betty we're going to be at because we designed the Buff Betty this year and hoping to see a lot of people at the Buff Betty. And if you're a woman listening to this podcast, you should join the Women of AR Facebook group. It's a great place to get inspiration and ideas and motivation for racing. And
We have Ecuador.
And we have Ecuador, the World
Championships in Ecuador. Yeah.
So there's no shortage of stuff coming up. And man, I think just all of us, I'm sure, agree. We're just so grateful that we have the opportunity to do these things. I mean, it's pretty great to travel and be able to challenge yourself. And I'm excited to see you guys at races coming up. And I guess that might be a wrap. Thank you so much for talking with us. And we really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
thisAbility Public Relations, PR.
PR. There we go.
Another
Public relations.
PR.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please take a moment to leave a rating and a comment.
If you have a question for the next mailbag segment, call 757-354-4795 and leave us a voicemail or a text with your name, city you are calling from, and your question.
To find additional content, including the video versions of these discussions, you can search for thisAbility Racing on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
We hope this podcast inspired you to focus on your abilities and plan your next adventure.
See you on the trail.